Where you can see new video from U.S. Central Command of what's going on with these operations. We'll tell you that the Pentagon says at least 7 small Iranian boats were destroyed and a couple of missiles were intercepted. The only 2 U.S. flagged ships were able to sail through the strait yesterday, as dozens more remain trapped.
If the Strait of Hormuz freezes for even one day, this does not stay a Gulf story. It hits fuel prices, shipping costs, grocery bills, and factory lines across the planet. That is why this moment matters. Because right now, 60 Iranian speedboats are surrounding a U.S. aircraft carrier in the most dangerous oil corridor on Earth. And America has only minutes to decide whether this is a warning shot or the start of something much bigger. The image is almost surreal. A Nimitz-class carrier, nearly 1,100 feet of steel, aircraft, radar, and controlled violence, is moving through a maritime choke point just 21 miles wide at its narrowest. Around it, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy speedboats slice through the water in tight rings. Some carry rockets, others mount heavy machine guns, a few may be carrying something worse. Break time U-5s. The swarm looks small next to the carrier. That is exactly what makes it dangerous. Iran does not need to sink a carrier to shake the world. It only needs to create 10 minutes of confusion in Hormuz. That is enough to rattle insurers, freeze tankers, and send oil traders into panic. This is not just about boats circling a warship. It means a dock worker in Busan, a refinery buyer in Yokohama, and a trucking company in Mumbai may all feel the shock before this day is over. The military scene is immediate. The civilian fallout is global. Radio warnings come fast. Iranian fast craft, you are approaching at an unsafe distance. Alter course now. The call comes from an American escort destroyer, an Arleigh Burke-class warship armed with a 5-inch naval gun and 96 vertical missile cells. The Iranian boats do not break away, they split. Break time O-5s, some charge the bow, others drift along the flanks. A few hang back just far enough to force the Americans into the ugliest question at sea. Which boat is the real trigger? This is where tension becomes mathematics. In open ocean, a carrier group has space, time, and options. In Hormuz, all 3 are compressed. Every second of hesitation narrows the room for error. Every wake line becomes a possible attack run. Pentagon briefings have warned for years that harassment in these waters can turn lethal in moments. Admiral Brad Cooper once put it plainly. Miscalculation can happen very quickly. That speed is the whole strategy. Tehran is trying to weaponize reaction time. But the real threat is far more dangerous than the swarm itself. Boats are loud. Minds are silent. That is where Iran's deeper maritime doctrine begins. Breaks. Tehran has spent years building a sea denial strategy designed not to defeat the U.S. Navy ship by ship, but to poison the water under global trade. A carrier can fight aircraft and missiles. It cannot simply ignore the possibility that the channel ahead has been seeded with explosives. And once that doubt enters the strait, commerce starts choking. Take the MDM-6 influence mine. The name sounds technical, but the concept is brutally simple. It waits for a ship's magnetic field or engine noise, then detonates under the hull. The EM-52 works from the seabed in a similar role, striking from below where ships are most vulnerable. Even older contact mines, those blunt metal spheres studded with triggers, can still tear open a tanker if laid in the right lane. Cheap weapons. Catastrophic results. Geography turns that threat into a nightmare. Break time 5s. The actual shipping lanes inside Hormuz are only about 2 miles wide in each direction. That is not a broad sea, it is a steel funnel. A few well-placed mines can turn one of the world's busiest energy corridors into a traffic jam wrapped in fear. And Iran does not stop at mines. It layers them with coastal missiles, so that the ships trying to clear the channel become targets themselves. This is where the golden lock of the strait begins to snap shut. The Noor missile is one of those tools. It is an Iranian anti-ship cruise missile with a range of roughly 120 to 170 kilometers. In plain language, that means a ship can be threatened from deep along the coast without ever seeing the launcher. The Qader missile reaches even farther, nearing 200 kilometers. So the speedboats distract, the mines delay, the missiles punish the cleanup. Break time equal 5s. This is not chaos, it is choreography, and the surface drama may be hiding the real operation. Here is the part that terrifies naval planners. The swarm may not be the attack. It may only be the doorbell. While every radar, camera, and command team is locked onto 60 speedboats slashing across the surface, slower craft or disguised dhows can be laying the real trap somewhere else. That is the logic of asymmetric warfare. You force the giant to stare at the noise while the damage is prepared in the shadows. In Hormuz, the invisible threat is usually the most expensive one. America's response begins in layers. Phase 1 is air control. FC-18 Super Hornets launch from the carrier deck. Twin-engine strike fighters that can fly faster than sound and carry precision weapons against sea or land targets. Above them climbs the E-2D Hawkeye. Break time equal 5s, essentially a flying control tower with a powerful radar that sees far beyond the horizon. Its job is simple. Map everything moving, everything turning, everything accelerating. Once the sky is organized, the swarm below becomes easier to break apart. An EA-18G Growler joins the pattern. This is an electronic attack jet, which means its real weapon is confusion. It jams radar, disrupts communications, and makes hostile coordination wobble at exactly the moment it needs to be precise. MH-60R Seahawk helicopters begin orbiting the outer ring as well. These are sensor-heavy naval helicopters that can track surface threats and launch Hellfire missiles. From above, the geometry of the swarm becomes visible. From that moment on, every Iranian boat is a moving equation with a firing solution attached. Then the tone changes. Warnings end. Break time, 5s, precision begins. One escort ship tracks an inbound craft with its Phalanx close-in weapon system, a 20mm defense gun firing up to about 4,500 rounds per minute. Think of it as a buzzsaw built for the final seconds of danger. Controlled fire follows from other escorts. Engines are shredded, hulls roll. White wakes turn black with smoke. Reports from the region suggest multiple boats are destroyed or disabled in the opening exchange. The line has been crossed, but the story does not end here. Destroying boats only solves the visible half of the problem. American commanders know very well that a coordinated maritime swarm usually points to support nodes ashore, coastal radar, command posts, mobile missile teams, and hidden storage sites. That is why the battlefield widens almost immediately. Bandar Abbas matters. Keshem Island matters. Break time. The southern coastline matters. The carrier group is no longer just defending itself. It is now trying to tear out the nervous system behind the harassment campaign. That is where the B-2 spirit enters the chain. The B-2 is not just a bomber. It is a stealth bomber built to slip through defended airspace and hit hardened targets without warning. With intercontinental range and a 172-foot wingspan, it is used when America wants buried infrastructure neutralized, not merely threatened. Its weapon here is the GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator, a 5,000-pound bunker-busting bomb designed to punch through earth and reinforced concrete before detonating. In plain language, that means hillside storage chambers are no longer safe. Buried command rooms are no longer safe. Missile support tunnels are no longer safe. When those weapons appear, break time equal 5's message to Tehran is unmistakable. The coast is not sanctuary. The speedboats were theater. This is architecture collapsing. American firepower is no longer swatting at the symptom. It is ripping into the frame holding the whole system together. And then the response takes another turn. But here is the part nobody shows you. After the stealth bombers, after the bunker busters, after the dramatic footage and satellite maps, the war still has to be cleaned up piece by piece. The next stage is less glamorous and just as decisive. America now shifts from shock to pressure, from breaking fixed targets to hunting the moving parts that keep the crisis alive. This is where speed, visibility, and relentless repetition start mattering more than spectacle. 10 Warthogs enter from regional bases. They may look old, but that is deceptive. Break Time 05s. Their GAU-8 Avenger cannon fires 30mm rounds at roughly 3,900 rounds per minute. Essentially a flying industrial grinder built to tear through vehicles, launchers, and small maritime targets. If the B-2 is the hammer, the A-10 is the cutting wheel. Fuel trucks, coastal radar vans, missile carriers, and temporary staging points all become vulnerable. Iran's web of pressure begins to fray at the edges. Drones now take over the long stare. Maritime surveillance packages, including persistent Gulf-based tracking systems and GARC-type reconnaissance platforms, begin feeding live movement data back to the fleet. That technical language means something very simple. The southern Gulf is being turned into a glass room. If Iran moves a launcher, it can be seen. If a boat leaves a hidden cove, it can be tracked. If a radar truck changes position, break time B5s, it can be targeted. The fog of war is being stripped away layer by layer, yet even that is not the worst part. Because once the shooting starts, the sea itself remains contaminated by uncertainty. That is why Phase 2 becomes a battle against what may be underwater. Knifefish unmanned underwater vehicles are brought forward. These are robotic mine hunters built to search cluttered seabeds where ordinary sonar can miss buried explosives. Nobody cheers for this part. Nobody makes cinematic montages about it. But without it, the strait may be open militarily and still be closed commercially. Picture the captain of an oil tanker now. He knows the carrier survived. He knows Iranian boats were hit. He knows American aircraft dominate the sky. But he also knows one hidden mine can gut his ship and set the sea on fire. Break time 05s. So does he enter the strait tonight, or does he wait? That question alone can freeze trade. This is not just about combat. It means confidence itself has become a battlefield. And confidence is the lifeblood of the global shipping system. Oil markets react long before anyone declares the water safe. Brent pushes toward $108 a barrel. War risk insurance premiums jump. Charter rates climb. Reinsurers start recalculating exposure in real time. The numbers sound abstract until they reach ordinary life. A logistics manager in South Korea now sees fuel assumptions collapsing before dawn. A plastics buyer in Japan watches feedstock costs rise. A trucking company in India realizes diesel margins may be gone for the month. One naval clash begins multiplying through supply chains like a crack racing across glass. Europe feels it too. Break time 05s, only with a slight delay measured in contracts rather than headlines. First comes energy, then shipping. After that comes inflation drifting outward like smoke under a warehouse roof. Fertilizer becomes more expensive. Aviation fuel tightens. Container costs inch upward. Food transport follows. This is why Hormuz matters so much. It is not just a waterway. It is an industrial artery. Block it, even psychologically, and the pain spreads from ports to checkout lines with startling speed. But if we pull back the curtain of politics a bit and look behind it, another figure appears in the glow of the fire. Russia. This is where the greatest irony begins. Tehran thinks it is humiliating Washington in a dramatic sea confrontation. Instead, it may be feeding Moscow. Picture a trader in a dim office in St. Break time 05s. Petersburg watching oil tick higher with every alert from Hormuz, saying nothing, doing nothing, and making money as the Gulf burns. That is the shadow beneficiary angle. Russia's so-called shadow fleet, older tankers with murky ownership and opaque insurance chains, thrives in messy markets. When global prices rise, even discounted Russian crude starts generating stronger revenue. Sanctions pressure frays at the edges. Buyers under stress stop asking elegant geopolitical questions and start asking where they can secure barrels fast. While Iran thinks it is striking the United States, it is also widening the profit margin of a colder and far more calculating opportunist. China gains leverage too, but in a different style. Beijing can present itself as the calm broker, the steady buyer of break ties, the power willing to keep trade moving through yuan settlements and alternative channels while Western insurers and shipping systems strain. This is not where the spotlight goes, but it matters enormously. A Hormuz crisis does not just raise prices, it nudges trade away from dollar-centered systems. That is why this is not just about boats and bombs. It means strategic realignment is riding on the same waves. Here comes the full boomerang effect. Iran's own economy depends on exports, shipping confidence, and a functioning Gulf. If Hormuz becomes a furnace, Iran inhales the same smoke as everyone else. Its ports suffer, its revenue shakes, its currency takes pressure, its insurers strain. The weapon aimed at the world starts punching holes in the hand holding it. Tehran believes it is locking the strait against its enemies. In reality, Breaktime 5's it may be locking itself inside the crisis it created. So, now the real question arrives fast. Did Iran cross a line that demanded a crushing response? Or did both sides understand exactly what this confrontation would do to oil, shipping, and global nerves? Either way, the speedboats were never the whole story. They were the spark thrown into a room already filled with fuel. From here, there are only two futures. Either deterrence holds, and Hormuz stays open under a heavier American shield, or the next encounter comes faster, closer, and with less room for warnings. One path leads to tense stability. The other leads to a regional fire with global consequences. So what do you think? Did Iran make its biggest mistake? Or was this escalation always part of the plan? And if the next swarm comes tomorrow, should Washington hit even harder? We are waiting for your comments.